challenging, and he has a lot of pressure on him because nothing is going in or out of the mine without this guy making it happen, okay? He has to communicate with those miners underground. He does not have a telephone system. He just has these 3 bells ringing in his ear, okay? 3 bells because of how deafeningly loud it is with that air compressor running. Those 3 bells are ringing in his ear all day long in a dot-dash language that's similar to Morse code. It's unique to the Butte mines. It's called the mine signal code, and it's coming at him fast. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. He has to decode that, then get to everybody's needs using those 2 cages. He just has these levers to drive those cages up and down the shaft. He has these dials to let him know where those cages are at underground. The numbers on these dials correspond with the different shaft station levels. So that 1 is for the 100-foot shaft station. That's the one we're about to go down to. The 5 is for 500 feet. The 15 is for 1,500, all the way down to the 3,200 level. Okay, he's going to send all those cages down, bring them all back up. He's going to do all of this and get to everybody's needs without making any mistakes, right? No, eventually he's going to make a mistake, at which point he has some disgruntled miners that are upset with him underground. Now, we have a rule that only the station tender, the guy working that shaft station, is allowed to send signals up to him. But at some point, that station tender is going to take a break. He's going to be away from his post, and those mischievous Butte miners, they're going to get over on that signal bell, and they've got their own special codes that are considered insults, cuss words, and dirty jokes. And they're going to send them up to our hoist operator. I don't have them on me, no. Thank you, though. All right, you got to be really careful, though, because this is your only way out of the mine, okay? So if he figures out which level of the mine is sending him up dirty jokes, you have to have holes to stick dynamite in. So our history of drilling is over on this wall. If we look all the way over there on the left-hand side, those candlelight days, we're using hand tools. Again, it's like absolutely crazy they got as much done as they did. Those metal rods are called a tool steel. The hammer's called a jack. Typically in Butte, we're doing what's called double jacking. So one guy's hitting it with a tool, hitting that with the hammer. The other guy's holding onto it, turning at a quarter turn between each hammer hit. Again, our miners are really excited with a new invention. We get the mechanical rock drill. These mechanical rock drills, just like the carbide lantern, they'll come with some serious safety downsides. First of all, they're big, they're heavy, they can tip over, they can crush you. But the real danger that those present is the dust that they produce, okay? That dust is full of silica dioxide, so it's like breathing in ground up glass. That silica dioxide is going to lead to a condition called silicosis, and that is going to take the lives of a lot of miners. Now, out on the grounds, we have a memorial garden that lists the names of all the Butte miners who died of accidents in the Butte mines, on the Butte mine yards. It does not include the names of people's lives, okay? Now that we have a hole, we're going to stick the dynamite in. We have to tamp the dynamite in. We're going to tamp it very carefully because in a hot, humid mine, dynamite actually sweats. And what dynamite sweats is nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin does not require a spark to detonate, just a big bump. So this is going to lead to Butte's most famous bit of slang. Now, in a place with 30 languages being spoken, slang is, you know it, slang is an important common language. And so you might not speak a lick of English, but you're going to get down to that station tender at the end of your shift. Station tender, he's going to say, "How's she go?" And what you would respond is tapper light. And that meant you were all loaded with dynamite. You were ready to blast, okay? That'll spread out of the mines here in Butte and become part of the local vernacular. You'll still hear old timers say, "How's she go?" And the appropriate response is tapper light. Very good, okay. Now we've got that all loaded in. We're gonna load 10, 12 sticks of dynamite, and then we're gonna run this blast wire back toward that shaft station. We're going to yell "fire" in the hole 3 times, press the plunger just like Looney Tunes, and kaboom. All steel gallows frame. It is one of 14 that remain in the city of Butte. We used to have 34 of these, so we lost 20 along the way. This is one of the smaller ones that remains. Most of them are about 120, 130 feet. The tallest one is the Kelly, that last mine that was in operation. That one's 157 feet. These were manufactured out in Pittsburgh. They were brought out here in pieces on the train, and then they were put together by shipbuilders because they're all hot riveted together. So fun fact about how they got a hot rivet to the top of a 100-foot tower: they would heat up the rivets on the furnace on the ground. They toss it onto a piece of canvas with a guy at either end. The guys would whip that canvas up in the air, and then there'd be another couple guys hanging off the tower with another piece of canvas to catch that hot rivet, toss it over to the guy driving the rivets in. Originally, this head frame was at a different mine called the Colorado mine, which is in the center of Butte's Uptown, right over by that Sparky's Garage restaurant. It was moved over here in 1925. When they moved it over here, they originally just had 2 sections of the mine, or what we would call compartments of the mine. Those 2 compartments of the shaft have those 2 cages in there. We've got the one on the right set up as a chippy, the one in the middle set up as a skip, and then you'll notice there's a 3rd compartment that has no cage. That was added in 1937. When they added that compartment of the shaft, they added a shiv up at the top and a separate hoist over here, and that compartment was dedicated just for chippy rides. So that's going to free up our other 2 compartments for bringing ore cars up. That's pretty much all to cover here. Let's start walking down toward getting helmets.
How big is the one that we formed under?
I think that one's like 135. It's one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, that was huge.
It's not quite as big as the Kelly, but I think it's the 2nd biggest. Okay, the other name for these you heard me mention was gallus frame. That comes from the word gallows. Yeah. So if you look behind me, there's a really old gallus frame. It's said to look like a hangman's gallows. That word gallows got squished together by all the languages being spoken in Butte and came out gallus frame. Now this gallus frame also ran off horsepower, but instead of a 450 horsepower electric motor, it ran off a 1 horsepower horse. So you've got a horse connected to this timber, which is connected to that gearbox. You're gonna walk the horse in one direction, that's gonna bring your bucket up. Walk the horse in the other direction, it would lower your bucket down. We'll keep walking down this way. I'll also point out this sump pump. At any point in Butte, when we're mining underground, we have to constantly drain the water out of our workings, otherwise it'll fill in with groundwater. So all those drifts are gonna drain into the shaft. We're gonna pump out of the bottom of the shaft. So we're gonna go from pumps that size in those silver mining days to eventually pumps nearly the size of this building that were in usage at the Kelly that pumped millions of gallons a day. You guys familiar with what the Butte miners ate when they went underground?
No.
Anybody? Pasties, that's right. Okay, pasty is meat and potatoes. It's wrapped in pie crust. It came over from the Cornish. The reason the miners like the pasty is that you can hold one end of that crimped together pie crust, eat down to the last little bit, and then toss that last little bit, keeping those contaminants that are all coated on your hand from getting inside of you. Yep, and then you're gonna end up with an empty lunchbox. And those empty lunch boxes rarely stayed empty when those miners came out. What was inside of them was the property of the Anaconda Company, which mostly looked the other way as long as it was small stuff. Things that commonly came out in the lunch boxes were sticks of dynamite, often cut into little pieces and given to the children of Butte to go play with. Kid you not. Also, chunks of water pipe often came out. You'll find old houses in Butte that are completely plumbed in with 3-inch chunks of pipe, elbows into elbows into elbows, because that's what they could sneak out in the lunch boxes. And then my favorite thing, we have a few specimens here. If you go over to the Gem and Mineral Museum at Montana Tech, you'll see a bunch more crystal specimens, beautiful crystals that came out of the Butte mines. Now all of that stuff should have been sent to the smelter, but those Butte miners, they have an eye for beauty, and they wanted to save those beautiful crystals from the smelter, so they snuck them out in the lunchbox. That's why they're all lunchbox sized.
What happened?
Well, their widows needed something.
Absolutely, those widows needed something to remember them by.
What would happen to the crystals if they went to the smelter?
They would melt them down and they would turn into slag, because that quartz, silica dioxide.
It's like seems like
The thing about those crystals is there's metal in there, you know, in most cases, or very closely adjacent to it. So it's all ore. All right. We've got a lot of people. I hope I have enough helmets. We might have to get creative here a little bit. We're all gonna wear a helmet when we go underground. You gotta leave these things on. We're also gotta wear safety glasses. So these helmets have been sanitized. It's so impossible to keep up with sanitizing these glasses that we just have some wipes. So if you wanna sanitize these, just come grab a wipe out of the back of this little John Deere wagon. But you guys can step up, grab these helmets. There's a dial on. I've got a great spot for pictures here in just 1 second. I think I'm gonna have to run and get one more light though. Unless, is that everybody?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that light is not great. That's the one I usually use when I have a full crew.
Okay.
But I think we got one extra somehow. I'm not gonna complain about it. We're just gonna make it work. I'm gonna go without a light. Glasses? You don't need glasses because you have glasses. Okay. Yeah. Daly has a bitter rival by the name of William A. Clark, okay? They're the two biggest mine owners in Butte, so they're obviously going head to head in terms of their mine ownership, but they also duke it out on a lot of political campaigns. They both have a lot of political ambition. One of the classic showdowns between Daly and Clark comes with the relocation of the Montana state capital. So the capital used to be in a town called Virginia City. We're now gonna move it. Daly really wants it to be in his company town of Anaconda that he just started, okay? He is going to spend millions of dollars in that public campaign to try to persuade people to vote for the capital to be in Montana, or in Anaconda. It will all be for naught though, because his rival, Clark, had a different plan. And Clark's plan went like this, all right? He found the rich and powerful people in Montana and he slipped a little money to them, all right? Clark's bribery had to be accepted. He would figure out some way to force you to take your bribe if you did not want it. He might slip it through a crack in your door. He might find a family member that was down on their luck, or he might even threaten violence if you did not take his offer, okay? Offer you can't refuse. That is how we end up with our capital in Helena to this day. Then Clark wants to run for US Senate, and Daly will get his revenge. He will spend millions of dollars yet again on a political campaign, even though he has nothing to gain but watching his rival lose, all right? Daly's gonna spend millions of dollars to defeat Clark's Senate campaign. One of the ways Daly's able to accomplish that was by opening up bar tabs all over the state of Montana. You could drink as much as you want on Daly's dime as long as you promise to vote against William A. Clark. All right, you guys can head back to this concrete pad right back there. I'll meet you guys over there in just a second.
What happened after?
Apparently, my boss has a problem with me losing people underground. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal, personally. It's been happening. No, I'm just kidding. All right, and then the other thing is we want to cut down on erosion, so please don't pick up the sides of the mine. Please don't stand where the mine walls meet the floor, and just leave everything we see down there. No lunchbox activity today, okay? Sound good? All right, I'm gonna crack this open. I want you guys to take a few steps inside and then just wait for me. And I will come guide the way.
No dynamite? Back up? No bull?
There was a lot of dynamite in here not so long ago, but nothing right now. All right, you guys can wait right there. You're in my world now. Okay.
Buffalo Tim.
Yeah. Okay, so this is probably the most treacherous part of the journey. It's steep right here, the gravel's loose, so let's just take baby steps until we get down to that archway, and then we're gonna cover some information on the maps.
Wow. Wow, Tim.
It's fun?
It's cool. I knew that you could crush it at this, and you're really good at telling the stories. And
You think it's good?
Yeah.
I'm a little off my game today because I drank too much last night.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah. Yes, now it's nice and cool. We'll all gather underneath this archway, and I'm going to cover a little bit of information on the maps, so make sure we get everybody squeezed in down here. Keep on coming in. Come on in, come on in. Okay, the first stuff I'm going to cover is on this map over here. This is an aerial photograph of the grounds underground as it exists right now. All of this is basically at the 100-foot level, other than the access point that we just walked in. Now that access point and the rest of the way down to the 100-foot shaft station is not original to the mine. The only way down to that 100-foot shaft station would have been the hoist, but we can't run the hoist as a museum, so we blasted all this out in the last 20 years to give access to that 100-foot shaft station. Now, a lot of that blasting and drilling and all that that work was done by Montana Tech mining students, okay? The rest of this underground is what they call their underground laboratory. It is the only mining program in the country that has a mine on campus. And because they've been so helpful in all this extraction, we're going to respect that the rest of this is their territory. We're just going to go down to that 100-foot shaft station today. The rest of what I want to cover is on this map, okay? This is an amazing map. This is a map of all the mine tunnels in Butte, okay? So first of all, we've got all these black dots with the names next to them. Those are the vertical workings of the mine, which we call the shaft, okay? Now these are only the shafts that made it 1,000 feet deep. So there was a lot more shafts in Butte that never made it that deep. They're not represented. The ones that have the head frames here still have this little icon there to let us know that they're still standing, like the original where these guys just played. We're all the way over here at the Orphan Girl. The Orphan Girl gets its name because it's way off to the west side of camp, all by itself, so they said it was like an orphan. The deepest depths of the Orphan Girl is actually 2,731 feet deep. And I know what you're thinking. Tour guide Tim, I saw the dial. It said 3,200, okay? Why is it only 2,700 feet? And that is because that 3,200 level is set by the Mountain Con, Butte's deepest mine. So the Mountain Con is 5,291 feet deep. It is over a mile deep. That's where it gets the nickname Mile High, Mile Deep, because we're a mile up in elevation. They made it a mile deep at the Mountain Con. As the con went deeper and deeper, it set those shaft station levels, okay? So because we're down the hill, we only have to go 2,700 feet down to reach that 3,200 level where a lot of the mines are connected together. Okay, so this is an interconnected network of drifts. All right, all these colored lines are our drifts. The different colors correspond with the different depths. When we look at them all together like this, you can actually see the shape of that ore body underground because all these drifts are following those veins of ore. Now, when we add up all these drifts together, it is 10,000 miles of mine drifts. That is just shy of half the circumference of the Earth.
That's just shy of the amount of miles in the United States interstate system.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Very good extra fact there, Dan. We've got all of these drifts, different colors corresponding with those different depths. You can see the Molten and the Alice never got that deep. Those are those silver mines from the early days. But eventually we're going to get to places like the Anselmo that only works over 2,000 to 3,000 feet underground, okay? The height of Butte mining, we have as many as 8,000 or 9,000 men working underground at any one time. That is in 3 8-hour shifts so that the mine is in operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The whole city was in operation 24 hours a day. All those bordellos operated 24 hours a day. The bars operated 24 hours a day. The shops operated 24 hours a day. And we have as many as 70,000 people living in the immediate vicinity of the mines. So it's a really high population density. So not only did the mines run in 8-hour shifts, a lot of the boarding houses ran in 8-hour shifts as well. So you'd have your bed for 8 hours, you'd get up to go to work, and another guy would be getting into that bed to go to sleep. Wow. Totally gross, but that's what you got to do to get by, all right? After World War I, we're going to see a decline in the demand for copper, and such we're going to watch a decline in Butte's population and production. That population decline and production decline becomes very apparent in the 1950s when we shift primarily from underground mining over to open pit mining. Now that first shaft I explained, William J. Parks, that shaft was called the Parrot. And that Parrot lode that he found is right through here, that yellow that is up close to the surface, okay? He got really lucky with where he decided to dig, but eventually it would be all for naught because the Berkeley pit's gonna go back in and find everything, all these mines left behind, it's gonna capture all of that. Now it's also going to suck up not just all these mines, but 3 major neighborhoods of town and about half of Butte's uptown. Now there was a plan for the Anaconda Company to sink another pit right where Uptown Butte is now. And that plan was foiled when they basically go bankrupt because their holdings in Chile were nationalized by Allende and the socialists of Chile. When they go out of business, they sell the mine workings to the Atlantic Richfield Oil Company, or ARCO. ARCO decides just a year later that they actually don't want to be a mining company, and so they shut down the pumps at the Berkeley pit, at which point the Berkeley pit starts to fill in with water, and so does the rest rest of this 10,000 mile interconnected network of drifts. Okay, it's all full of water now. The Orphan Girl is full of water just 110 feet below the surface. Okay, so we're gonna go down 100 feet. We can take a look in that shaft and you'll see the water just 10 feet below. It is water all the next 2,600 feet down. Okay, nowadays we're working in a different pit over here called the Continental Pit. Mostly they're working it out widthwise, setting the footing to do a spiral dig down into ore that's much richer. They recently did exploratory drilling in the Continental Pit down to a depth of 15,000 feet, and there's copper all the way down there. So this is what leads our geologists to believe that all 150 years of mining in Butte has only extracted about 10 to 15% of the total copper deposit. That 10 to 15% is equivalent to 22.8 billion pounds of copper. Enough copper to repave all lanes of interstate highway between here and Salt Lake City. That at the depth of 6 feet. So that's a lot of copper, okay? Now, what does the future of Butte mining hold with all that copper sitting in here undeveloped? It's kind of anybody's guess. If you talk to an environmentalist, they will say there's a 0% chance we'll ever be able to drain all of these mine workings and get back in underground. But if you talk to a miner, they will tell you there's a 100% chance that we will drain all this water and get back underground. So me, I'm just a lowly old tour guide. I will remain neutral on the issue. All I want to make clear is that there is no copper shortage, okay? We still have a lot of copper. We're still the richest hill on earth. All right, any questions on that map? Okay, let's head on deeper then. Oh, you'll see these lines running. That's how we run the drills now. These would have been rubber hoses back in the day. Now we use HDPE. One of those is running compressed air. The other one's running water. They're gonna come down and get split off. You can see this rubber hose coming across the top of the drift. That's coming down to a drill right here. This is one of those old dry drills, what we would call a widowmaker now because of the dust that it produces. So everybody can kind of gather up in front of this little stope right here. This is going to send that compressed air down through a percussive element right here that's going to bang this around back and forth and around in circles. This whole thing's on a rail so you can crank it in slowly as it's drilling. You're just cranking it in, getting your hole ready for the dynamite. Then you're going to do a blasting. Now you've got to come back in and do a couple steps to make the mine safe, okay? The first step is what we call bar down. Okay, this is a bar down bar. You can look up in our wire mesh right now, the cribbing that's up right now, you can see there's little rocks stuck. There's some rocks stuck right there, okay? Those are really little ones, but they're a good example of what we call a Dugan in Butte, because Dugan was the name of the coroner, okay? The funeral home director, all right? So the idea being if one of those rocks came loose and fell on you, you're gonna get a trip directly to the funeral home. That term Dugan actually has spread to mines all throughout the world. I don't know if they probably don't use it in Pakistan, but a lot of mines do use the term Dugan to mean big rocks that fall down and crush you. So the idea of the bar down is to take this long bar, find that loose rock and just pick at it, try to get it to drop down in front of you instead of on top of you. Once you've completed your bar down, then you can go in and put in your cribbing. Now back in the day, the cribbing was, remember I said Daley owned all the timber operations in Montana? He has an unlimited supply of trees. So we're gonna stick a full-size timber on each side of our drift, stick a full-size timber across the top. That's one timber set. We're gonna put those every 5 or 6 feet in our drift. So there is an immense amount of wood underneath Butte, okay? You drive around southwest Montana, you're gonna see areas over by Hamilton and Missoula that are completely deforested, all those grassy hilltops. You wonder where all those trees went? They're underneath Butte, okay? So eventually we're gonna go to these things called rock bolts to cut down on the amount of timber we're using. These rock bolts work, you're gonna drill that hole like you would for the dynamite. This end is tapered, you're gonna drive that in with your jack leg. As you drive that in, this split down the middle is gonna collapse. It's gonna create compression in the rock. You put enough of those in the rock, it's actually gonna hold all the rock together like an archway, and it will not collapse. It'll also allow you to hold up this mesh, and that's gonna keep those dugans from falling down. So these are all those rock bolts that we use now, okay? Everything that's gonna go down into the mine, basically, that's not a piece of timber or a tool, we're gonna put in some kind of car. So all of our sticks of dynamite are gonna have a special car called a powder car. This is a special car called a potable water car. So all of our drinking water for the men is